The lost memory. Once upon a time, in a little village far away, there was a person. They woke up one day in a small, old house. But something was wrong. They couldn't remember anything. Not their name, not where they were from, nothing at all. They looked around the house, trying to find clues. On the walls, strange marks were drawn, but they didn't understand them. Their head hurt, and every time they tried to remember, it felt like their mind was filled with fog. Confused and scared, they stepped outside into the village, hoping someone could help them. But the villagers looked at them with suspicion, as if they were a stranger. Nobody came to help, which made them feel even more confused and lonely. As the person wandered through the village, trying to make sense of their situation, they stumbled upon an old well at the edge of town. Something about the well drew them in, as if it held the key to unlocking their lost memories. Beneath the fading light of the evening sun, they looked down into the bottom of the well, hoping to find answers. But instead of understanding what they saw, they were met with nothing but darkness. A shiver ran down their backs as they sensed something hidden in the darkness below. Without warning, a strong blow of wind swept through the village, putting out the flickering lanterns and throwing the world into darkness. Panic filled the person's heart as they realized they were not alone. Scared by the sudden darkness and the strange feeling from the well, the person hurried back to their hut, hoping to find comfort within its familiar walls. But as they followed their steps, they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Inside the hut, they looked again at the mysterious symbols carved into the walls. The symbols seemed to flicker in the faint candlelight, hinting at secrets they couldn't understand. Their heads pounded with pain as they struggled to understand what was happening. "It's just a dream," they mumbled to themselves, trying to ignore the scary feeling that crawled up their back. Ghosts and curses aren't real. But deep down, uncertainty nibbled at their determination. What if the markings held the key to their lost past? What if the darkness hidden in the well was more than just an imagination trick? With a heavy heart, they pushed aside their doubts and tried to convince themselves that everything would be all right. But little did they know, the rot within had already begun to take hold, setting the stage for a journey into the heart of darkness. Days turned into nights, and nights into days, but the person's headaches just got worse. Every minute felt like a very long time as they tried hard to see clearly through the confusion in their head. The strange symbols on the walls seemed to laugh at them now, their meaning more confusing than ever. Then, in the middle of the night, whispers traveled through the village, making the person shiver. Sleep became a faraway memory as nightmares filled their every moment. Shadows danced at the edge of their sight, teasing them with flashes of a past they couldn't remember. But it wasn't just the nightmares that tormented them. Strange things began happening around the village. Crops withered, animals vanished without a trace, and whispers grew louder, like a sinister chorus urging them towards an unknown fate. Despite their best efforts to ignore the signs, the person could no longer deny the truth. Something was terribly wrong, and they were at the center of it all. As the person's condition worsened, the villagers began to avoid them like the plague. Whispers followed them wherever they went, accusing them of bringing a curse upon the village. Alone and excluded, the person went further into their hut, seeking shelter from the blaming stares and hushed conversations that seemed to carry through the walls. Even alone in their own house, fear slowly destroyed their peace of mind. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind outside, seemed to warn of something terrible about to happen. Nights were the scariest time. Shadows moved strangely in the dim candlelight, turning into scary shapes that gave the person nightmares. They couldn't remember the last time they slept well. because they were too afraid of what might be hiding in the dark. Desperate for answers, they searched the village for anyone who would listen. But the villagers turned their backs, fearing that the person's affliction would spread like wildfire. Trapped in a situation they created themselves, the person's fear grew worse every day, until they felt like the darkness would completely take over. Faced with being alone and the constant fear that wouldn't stop, the person knew they had to do something, grasping at the small bit of hope they had left of finding answers. They went on a trip into the center of the forest, where the secrets of the village's history were hidden. Through tangled undergrowth and twisted branches, they pressed forward, driven by an insatiable need to uncover the truth. The forest seemed to come alive around them, its ancient trees whispering secrets that danced on the edge of their consciousness. At last, they found an old ruin. The walls were broken and decorated with the same strange symbols they had seen in their dreams. Their hands shook as they ran their fingers over the lines carved into the stone. Their hearts beat fast with excitement. As they deciphered the markings, a wave of realization washed over them. The symbols held the key to unlocking their forgotten past, revealing a truth more terrifying than they could have ever imagined. But with knowledge came power, and the person knew they couldn't turn back now. Armed with newfound understanding, they returned to the village, ready to confront the darkness that threatened to consume them. Armed with new knowledge and a strong determination, the person approached the village elders, asking for answers to the questions that bothered them. But as they faced the old leaders, the air heavy with worry, they understood that the truth would be difficult. The elders' faces showed fear and giving up, like they too were trapped by the darkness that hung over the village. With a shaky voice, the person spoke of the old ruins and the markings that held the clue to understanding their past. But instead of answers, they were met with silence, broken only by the faint whispers that echoed through the room. It wasn't long before it was obvious the old folks had secrets of their own, hidden things from the village's sad past. The more the person asked about what really happened, the more the shadows on the walls seemed to flicker and move. It felt like a bad sign, a warning of something evil hiding just outside the village. But the person wouldn't give up. They were determined to find the truth, whatever it took. With every word they spoke, they challenged the villagers pretending not to know anything. Something that had been going on for many years. Finally, the village leaders agreed to tell them what they knew. In a hushed voice, they spoke of an ancient pact made with forces beyond their understanding. A pact that had bound the village to a fate worse than death. And at the heart of it all lay the person themselves, a pawn in a game they never knew they were playing. As they learned the truth, the person became very angry and upset, but also felt a little hopeful. Even though things were bad, they saw a reason to be positive, like a small light in the darkness. They realized they could escape their past problems and start a new life. With determination strong like steel, they promised to face the darkness directly, to fight for their existence and the existence of the village. Little did they know, the biggest battle was yet to come. A battle that would test their bravery, their strength, and their very humanity. But with the truth on their side, they faced the darkness without fear, ready to embrace whatever fate awaited them in the shadows. Armed with the knowledge of the village's secret deal, the person faced a scary choice: to accept their lost past and face the darkness directly, or to ignore the truth and run away to stay safe. For a fleeting moment, doubt crept into their mind, whispering tales of easier paths and simpler truths. But deep down, they knew that running away would only prolong the inevitable, condemning the village to a fate worse than death. With a heavy heart and a steely resolve, They made their decision. They would stand and fight, not just for themselves, but for the village and its people who had suffered in silence for too long. But as they got ready for the last fight, worries bothered them. What if they weren't strong enough? What if everything they did was for nothing, and the darkness took them over completely? In the final moments, it wasn't physical power or bravery that pushed them onward, but the realization that they had companions. With the help of their new friends and a spark of hope burning brightly inside them, they confronted the darkness with a strong and steady will. And so, as the shadows converged upon the village, the person stood at the forefront, ready to make the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of survival. For in the face of darkness, they knew that true strength lay not in victory, but in the courage to fight against the odds, no matter the cost. The fight continues fiercely, dark shapes twisting around the village like a scary storm. The person fought as hard as they could, pushing back against the darkness with all their strength. But try as they might, the darkness wouldn't stop. It swallowed the village whole, like a smothering hug. The person watched in terror as their friends and allies, one by one, fell to the shadows that slowly crept closer. In the end, they were all alone, surrounded by darkness everywhere. As time passed, their hope faded away, until all that was left was a tiny spark, like a dying ember in the cold night. As the darkness closed in, the person made one final stand, knowing that their sacrifice would not be in vain. For even in defeat, they had fought with courage and determination, refusing to surrender to the forces that sought to destroy them. And so, as the shadows consumed them whole, the person whispered a silent prayer for the village and its people, hoping that someday someone would rise to take up their mantle and continue the fight against the darkness. As their voices died away in the night, a new day began in the village. The morning light seemed sad, as if reflecting their defeat. Evil had won in the end. All that remained were stories of a forgotten hero and a village lost to the passage of time.